Welcome, guys, to the Three Bold Takes YouTube channel. And today we're going to be going over our 2023 awards. We wanted to look back, reflect on the year, and not necessarily give you just the basic offensive player of the year style awards, but instead really stop and think about some outside of the box things to highlight. And that being said, I want to start with our Game of the Year award. Chase, who have you got slated as your Game of the Year for 2023?
This one was actually hard to choose. I was thinking of maybe do you go a playoff game because those were really good. Do you is there another game? I'm gonna go the first, not the championship game, but the first Oregon Washington game. That was really fun to watch. I thought it was electric all the way through, and I thought honestly both sides of the ball, both teams were absolutely equal in every facet. But Dan Lanning took Oregon out of that game with some of the calls that he made. And so that's why I love this one here. Bo Nix played an amazing game. This is what really put Michael Penix and the Huskies on the map of saying, hey, this team might be legit, really put them there. And then to know the end of the story of where Washington beat Oregon again and then went on to the national championship is just an awesome story. So I'm going to go the first Oregon Washington game. How about you, Fred?
That's a good pick. But I'm gonna go with the Iron Bowl this year. There, just like you mentioned, you could have chosen, multiple, both playoff games. Really, a lot of rivalry games were pretty legit. But 4th and 31 in the Iron Bowl, one play to save your season for an Alabama team, and you pull off what you did where you did it. It's easy for me for the Iron Bowl here, Quinn.
No, I like both of y'all's, but I went way off the wall because I wanted to stop and think about what game just left me flabbergasted and fully entertained. And that was easily Miami, Georgia Tech. That game was upsetting, infuriating, entertaining, and bizarre. It's everything that makes me love college football. And for people who didn't get to see it, which by the way, out of the three that were listed, this was definitely the least watched of those three games. Do yourself a favor and like try to find maybe the highlight video on YouTube, or if you can get the full game, get the full game. It was the most insane game of 2023, hands down. So it easily wins my game of the year. And it's like in our previous video where we were talking about ACC coaches, the reason that I'm still kind of iffy on Mario Cristobal at Miami. Got to see that game management turnaround.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're going ahead into our next video, or not our next video, sorry, our next award, which we're going to go with Sidekick of the Year. This is for best coordinator in college football. Freddie, who you got?
So for sidekick of the year, I'm going to go with somebody that has rumored to be leaving their school, and that is Jesse Minter, Michigan's defensive coordinator. He had them boys as the best defense in all of college football. And to work with a head coach like Harbaugh, who is predominantly offensively focused, you've got to be very good at your job in order to get a team that has that great of a defense. Obviously, they won a national championship while continuing, even in the playoffs, to show dominance on the defensive side of the ball. And typically, when you have a very, very good defense, you get exposed by those extremely high powered offenses. And that did not happen to Michigan this year. So I'm going Jesse Minter as sidekick of the year.
Ooh, so we're going to stick with defense for me too, but I think this is unequivocally the best defensive coordinator in all of college football. And I'm going to go Phil Parker from Iowa. Iowa, the only reason Iowa won 10 games, the only reason Iowa won any games is because their defense stayed on the field to help them compete. The offense was non-existent all the way through. So I wish we had like the opposite of this award too, like the worst coordinator, because it would then go to the offensive coordinator at Iowa. So, but that's just how good Phil Parker was and this defense was this year, is that they kept Iowa in contention in almost every game except for the conference championship game, and then also won 10 games. I mean, it's really hard for me to choose somebody else. Quinn?
Yeah, see, I'm in the same boat. And I was really hoping maybe we'd pick all different coordinators, but I also went Phil Parker for my sidekick of the year. Because my goodness, man, they led college football, all of college football, in the most punts. Nobody punted the football more than Iowa this season, and they still found a way to win 10 games. I believe what they lost 4 this season, 1 to Minnesota in a game that, frankly, if you get more liberal with your interpretation of a fair catch, Iowa returns a punt for a touchdown and beats Minnesota. So you're talking about an 11-win Iowa team who, yeah, when they played legitimate competition in Penn State, Michigan, and Tennessee, got run off the field by all 3 of them. But their defense still tried in those games. They were just getting no help at all, man. And so, like, Phil Parker, he is, you know how they say not all heroes wear capes? Phil Parker is one of those people, man. I feel bad for him. Hopefully, Iowa can find someone with a pulse to call offensive play calls next year. It'd be better than what they had this year. But Phil Parker, hands down, deserves sidekick of the year. Now we're going to move into our third award, which is most inspiring player. Freddie, who you got for your most inspiring player of 2023?
To me, this one's easy, and it honestly kind of taught me a lesson in my own, kind of thought process and how I want to go about my life moving forward. And that's Cody Schroeder from Missouri.
Missouri. Yeah.
Had no college offers coming out of high school, went to Division II, played there, absolutely killed it in Division II. And then decided to bet on himself and walk on at Missouri, and found himself this year as the best running back in all of the SEC, and honestly all of America. You could make the argument. Showed off in the Cotton Bowl, just an unbelievable year for him at Missouri. So it taught me a lesson to always bet on yourself, no matter what other people think. And that, anything is possible if you just really, really work at it.
Yeah, to follow that up, I'm going to go with the easy choice here. I'm going to go with Jalen Milroe. Week 2 you lose to Texas. Week 3 you get benched, and your team suffers against South Florida. People all season have been talking about how bad of a quarterback you are, how you can't lead Alabama, how the quarterback product has fallen off at Alabama. It's not the same. You can't lead them anywhere. You can't do this and that. And then you rattle off the rest of the season going undefeated. You make it to the conference championship game, beat the number 1 team there, then go play Michigan, have them on the ropes. Some bad game management down the end of the game kind of hurts you. But Jalen Milroe just overcoming every obstacle in that point, just not allowing the naysayers, as you might say, bring him down. And to honestly, I think he ended up top 5, top 7 in Heisman voting, and then he's a top Heisman favorite next year. So all of that, and then former coordinators as well saying that he shouldn't have been playing quarterback. Just really inspiring to watch him grow from where he could have pouted on week 2 after that loss and after that bench on week 3 and not help the team to come back and do what he did. Was really awesome to watch.
Yeah, similar to our sidekick of the year, I think we have a definitive winner for most inspiring player. For me, I was bringing Cody Schrader's name to the table on this one as well. The story of just betting on yourself, having honestly a pretty good career in D2 and not getting anything, and then coming up to D1 and not only making a roster and playing well, but you, like Freddie said, you could make a case he was the best running back in the country. It was between him, the running back at Oklahoma State, and Blake Corum at Michigan. Like, those were the top 3. So you're right there in that conversation for Doak Walker. It's just really inspiring, man. And that's the beauty of college football, is you get one of these dudes every year who gives you a story like this. And that's why we wanted to highlight that aspect of the sport for our most inspiring player of the year. And for me, like I said, it's got to be Cody Schrader from Missouri. All right, next we're going to be heading into our Firefighter of the Year award. Now, what this award is for a head coach that was coming into 2023 clearly on the hot seat. I'm talking like butt cheeks burning. All right. Now, who is it that put that fire out for you guys and won Firefighter of the Year? I want to start with you, Chase.
Gosh, I really hope this isn't a consensus one, but I was calling for his firing for a while. I'm going to go Neil Brown at West Virginia. I think Neil Brown he wasn't producing the product that he produced at Troy. He'd had some underwhelming seasons, 5-7, 6-7, I believe it was. Nothing too spectacular. And I think he started off the year around like 2-4 or 3-4, something of the nature. And it was like, okay, it's probably time to cut ties with this guy. And then Neil Brown came out, and I think he won 7-8 games this year, really turned the season around for West Virginia, made them a quality team to watch, and then also just had them down the road actually competing in the games that they were, like a couple of the predecessors that he had before him. So I think Neil Brown did the best job of saving himself, because for me it was either fire him this season or maybe give him one more. But for me, I think he saved himself maybe 2 to 3 more years, and definitely if he's recruiting well. So I'm going to go Neil Brown for West Virginia.
You know, it's interesting. I'm going to go Neil Brown as well. We had the same thought heading into this year. I don't even know how he even made it to this year, to be quite honest with you. I'd have fired him a long time ago. But I didn't know which way, Quinn, you wanted to go with this specifically. So I actually had a thought of, a coach who saved himself from the hot seat. I thought maybe a coach who had a downward spiral the year before, and then at some point this year turned things around from being on the hot seat next year. And for me, that was Dabo. He bad 2 years, and then start of the year was really bad, but then he rattled off all those wins and won a bowl game. So, that would have been my other one if we went that direction, but I'm going to go Neil Brown as well for somebody that I thought should have been fired. But based upon their performance this year, it makes sense why he wasn't fired in the offseason.
Yeah, and for this one, I had a feeling for this superlative, it was going to be our one consensus 3 bold takes award, and mine is Neil Brown as well. I mean, I'm in the same boat as you, Freddie. Coming into the season, I sat back and I was like, why does Neil Brown still have a job? I thought we were kind of wasting a year to just give him one more chance for the sake of giving him one more chance. But yet I was wrong. Here he was. He had a very impressive season with West Virginia this year. And honestly, I think they're kind of poised to have a kind of almost repeat season next year of at least equal, if not better, success in the Big 12. So congratulations to Neil Brown, man. Firefighter of the year consensus here at 3 bold takes. And now we're going to wrap up with our final award, biggest fumble. This is the biggest missed opportunity in the 2023 college football season by any team. Freddie, what you got?
Man, this is honestly a hard award, but I wanted to think about somebody who had multiple opportunities to compete better, like set themselves up for future success better in the year. For me, it's Oregon. The first game with Washington came down to, a field goal. But Dan Lanning kind of screwed them over in that with some of the play calls. But then you get another opportunity. You get another chance against the same team. But this time it's for a Pac-12 title, but also a trip to the college football playoff. And excuse my pun here, you fumbled it again if you're Oregon. You had 2 chances and you screwed them both up against Washington. So Oregon is my biggest fumble of the year. Chase?
I think I'm kind of torn. So my first thought is Alabama, and that's who I have written down. You lose to Michigan, whatnot. But I'm going to switch it on the nose. I'm going to go Florida State. Florida State, you have the opportunity as players who whined and cried about how your team deserved to be in the playoff and how you could have stood on your Florida State Seminole pride, and you could have went and played Georgia and at least stood toe to toe. I'd have respected you a lot more if the game was 63-10, more than 63-3, but you didn't. You said all you said. You tried to move the government to to help you out or do whatever you were doing there. I don't know. But you didn't. And all your guys at the transfer portal or declare for the draft or whatever, you could have stood on business and said, hey, you know what? I'm pissed off that we didn't make the playoffs. We're going to serve up a statement right here, right now. And you didn't do it. And a little bit, we mentioned our ACC coaches as well that we like. Norvell had a problem in that. His culture wasn't fully built to withstand and say, hey guys, what we've been saying, let's go out there and prove it to the nation. I think that's the biggest fumble. You had the opportunity to at least make a competitive game out of it. Say, hey, you know what? Georgia was the #1 team at one point. We stood toe to toe with them. We probably did deserve to be in there more than said team, said Alabama, said Texas, whatever. But you didn't. And for me, that's the biggest fumble of the year.
See, for me, biggest fumble of the year isn't a team. Biggest fumble of the year is Seth McLaughlin. Plain and simple.
True. True.
For the entirety of a season, Seth McLaughlin struggled to snap the football to his quarterback, which is quite a problem when you are a center. Despite this, the University of Alabama turned their season around, reestablished their culture, beat Georgia, and made the playoffs. Just for Seth McLaughlin's issues to honestly get worse than they had been, I think, in any one game the whole season in the matchup against Michigan. And it was bad enough that they lost the game in the moment because of McLaughlin's issues. It is exacerbated when Michigan did everything in their power to lose that game. I don't think people give Michigan enough credit, frankly, because they played a horrible football game throughout in terms of ball control and missed opportunities. Yeah, and despite that, you still let them hang around in the game due to bad center play and bad offensive line play in general, lose, and Nick Saban, the greatest coach of all time's career now, ends in a loss instead of a national title run. And a lot of it is due to bad center play in the final game of the season for Alabama. So for me, biggest fumble of the college football season is Alabama, but really more Seth McLaughlin and his terrible center play in Pasadena.
That is so
And
funny.
guys, hey, you know, I'm just speaking truth here. I mean, that is what it is. But guys, that will wrap it up for our 2023 awards show. Make sure to hit the like button, comment, subscribe, and we will see you again in the next video.